I bought this Trees laser in December 2024. I'm making this video almost 9 months later in September 2025. My plan was to buy the cheapest good CNC laser. I have one regret about this purchase. I wanted to buy the cheapest good laser. So when I looked at the Trees website, I bought the cheapest model, which has 5.5 watts of power. Since my plan was to buy the cheapest, I didn't even really look at any other options, but I could have got 10 watts for only slightly more, and I think it would easily have been worth it. And I say I wanted the cheapest option, but I did buy some optional extras. I bought the honeycomb, which is the surface that you put your material on so that the laser does not burn the tabletop, or whatever surface you have this on. That's not really optional. Well, you need something anyway. I still think a little bit about how I might replace the honeycomb. The one shortcoming of the honeycomb is that the frame is 2 millimeters higher than the main part. So if I'm cutting something that's too big to fit on the main part, it has to go over the frame, and then it's 2 millimeters higher, and that affects the focus. And focus is the most finicky part of using this device. I bought a blower too to blow air around the laser head so it blows smoke away, and so the smoke does not interfere with the laser, and also you don't get so many smoke stains on your material. Now, I don't know, but it seems to me that the blower should be stronger. If I feel the air coming out of the ends of the hose, the flow seems pretty weak. And then once I started using this, I realized I pretty much need some more things to use it properly. This produces too much smoke to have in a living area. If you have this in a garage or workshop, maybe you wouldn't mind the smoke. So to deal with the smoke, I built an enclosure, and I got a fan and a duct to blow the smoke outside, out the window. I got all these plastic bricks initially because the only material I could find to use was 3 millimeter thick HDF in sheets measuring 40 by 80 centimeters. And I could not slide those big sheets under the frame onto the honeycomb until I got these plastic bricks to raise up the frame. Since then, I found an online source where I can get sheets that are 30 by 30 centimeters of 3 millimeter HDF. So I've been using those since. Another advantage of the plastic bricks is that now the frame is more or less attached to the honeycomb, and the honeycomb has a lot of inertia. One problem that I had was that the laser head moved rather violently. When it moves at maximum speed, if it moves far enough to really get up to speed, then it starts and stops rather violently, really. It has enough momentum that it can actually cause the frame to slide around the tabletop. And now using these plastic bricks with the frame attached to the honeycomb has enough inertia that it doesn't feel like this is going to slide around at all. Although I did one other thing to prevent that sliding thing. In my G code, I don't use G0 anymore. G0 apparently is the usual command to move between cuts, to turn off the laser, move the laser head at maximum speed to its new position to start the next cut. I don't use that anymore. I use the command to turn off the laser, and then I use the G1 command to move at a controlled speed. So I don't have those violent starts and stops anymore. Speaking of G code, one reason that I bought this was that previously I was going to a maker lab to use a much more powerful CO2 laser. I liked going there. The staff were very helpful, but it's quite far to go, and I had to make an appointment before going. To continue using their machine, I would have to buy Lightburn, and Lightburn is a significant cost, so I thought instead of doing that, I could buy a much cheaper laser to use at home. You know, the trickiest thing in using this laser, as I said, is focus. Using stacks of washers of different thicknesses, I found that, I had the best results with having the laser head 12.2 millimeters above the surface of the material that I'm cutting. And you really do have to have good focus. There were times when I managed to cut through 3 millimeters of HDF with 6 passes, but those were rather lucky. It's very finicky. Sometimes 9 was okay, but lately I'm using 15 passes every time. Because if any part of the design does not get cut through completely, you don't know until you've taken the piece off the honeycomb and you try to separate the pieces. And if they don't come apart cleanly, it's very frustrating and you don't get a good result using a knife, for instance, to cut away the last part. So I just do 15 passes to make sure it's okay every time. It might be okay to risk getting away with fewer passes, but that would only work if you can take out the material and check it, and if it needs more passes, you can put it back in. But you would have to be able to put the material back in the same position very precisely, and I haven't thought of any convenient way to do that. Oh, and one other thing, I did think that instead of doing 15 passes, it should be possible to go just 1/15 as fast and just to have one pass. But this does not really work. If you go very slowly with the laser, apparently this heats up the material beside the cut too much, and the material beside the cut also burns. So instead of getting a nice clean cut that's just 1/10 of a millimeter wide or something like that, you burn a furrow that's 2 or 3 or 4 millimeters wide. I got the best results was having the laser head 12.2 millimeters above the material. And what's weird is the focus tool that comes with the machine only goes up to 10 millimeters, and it goes in 1 millimeter increments, 7, 8, 9, 10 millimeters. So I made my own focus tool. If you get one of these, I have a few observations about the instructions. There's the holder for the focus tool. It goes on one edge of the frame. According to the official instructions, this is almost the last step. You should be able to push it into place. It should just sort of snap into place, I think. That seems to be what the instructions say, but it would not do that for me. I just could not push it into place. It was just a little too big to fit where it was supposed to go, or at least it was too big to push in. And eventually what I did was I took apart one corner of the frame and I slid it onto the side where it was meant to go. So that worked okay, but I shouldn't have to take apart the frame to do that. So if you get one of these, I would recommend sliding the holder into place as almost the first step, because you can slide it onto the end of the bar very easily. And the other thing I don't like about those instructions, I would actually slide it onto the other end of the bar. When you have it finished, I think the area around where the focus tool is looks rather cluttered because you also have some cables in the same place. There was one other little thing in the instructions that confused me for a minute, and that is which way up the gantry goes. Because in the instructions, I don't remember whether this was in the booklet that comes with the device or in the official video instructions on YouTube, but the camera was zoomed in on the gantry when the whole device was turned upside down. But because the camera was zoomed in on the gantry, it was not apparent that the rest of the device was upside down. So I thought the gantry was supposed to go that way, and then I tried to put it on that way. It didn't make sense. And then eventually I realized they're showing the whole machine upside down. The gantry goes the other way up. The range that the laser head can move, I found, is about 303 by 313 millimeters, and the accuracy of movement is not reliable right at the edges of this range. So lately I'm using pieces of HDF 30 by 30 centimeters, and I'm keeping 1 centimeter away from the edge. So I think the biggest design that I would try to cut would be 28 by 28 centimeters. And I think that's about all I can think of to say.